wondering how you, because when we install the plastic, you know, it's open on the ends. Uh, Now it's closed off by the wire lock on the, you know, the firm part of the structure, but there's no wire lock on where the roll up sides go. And so just wondering how you seal the ends for the roll up side so that we can get that extra buffer in the wintertime there.
Okay, excellent question, and certainly something that comes up regularly in the conversation. Now, and actually, Andy, if you could put that picture back up of the greenhouse just as a reference for people to see what I'm referring to. So in this particular case, the top of the roll up is done with wood strapping. This can also be done with wire lock. And during the normal season of operation, that is sealed off, so there's no air escaping to the bottom. When it comes time to close up the greenhouse for the season, the wire lock insert that is part of the end package would need to be closed down to the bottom. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that in a couple of places at the top of the roll-up, you will need to remove what you're using as your pinching device. Either a short strip, a chunk of the wood would need to come out, or a piece of the wire insert. When people are preparing for this, the way that I suggest, and if you're doing it with the wire lock, you would start from the end, and coming from the end, you would do one complete wire insert, and then the start of the second one, you would actually cut a foot to a foot and a half off of that piece and put it in as a separate piece. That way, and do that if you, like in this particular case, this was like a 75 foot long greenhouse. So you would do that from each end so that there would be two spots where the air can escape from the top into the bottom. It's important to remember that when you're taking that little wire insert out, you put it into your channel right beside where you're taking it out of so that you have it handy for when you need to put it back in. Now, this is an alternate to putting a jumper from the top of the plastic into the bottom, which creates a hole and which has to be closed when you don't want the air to escape. So this is just a simpler way of preventing that air from escaping and then giving it a proper space to escape down. The other thing that is done is that when you're rolling it down for the final time in the season, just pull that rope extra tight to keep it pulled snug against the side of the building. Any other questions?
We did have a question from Martha come in. Martha was saying that she has concerns with snow load in her area, and how is that affected by the double layer and knocking the snow off the plastic? Is there any big concerns to be aware of? I'm not sure what area Martha is in. If Martha wants to either unmute or type in the comments where she's from, that can help too.
It'd be interesting to know where Martha's from, but the answer will be the same regardless of where she's from.
She's in Tiny.
First of all, that cushion of air will create a jiggle in the plastic. So there is a little bit of movement. And so you're more likely to shed snow with the airspace. Also, you're trapping that a slight level of warm air, so the snow is less likely to stick. But if you do get a situation where you have a buildup of snow, it's probably going to like kind of squish the air pocket out of there. So if you do a gentle bumping against the plastic, you are going to get relief from that plastic, from that buildup of snow. Now, the process of removing that snow is a little bit more of an elaborate thing, and which I've made a separate video on. And probably you, rather than me getting into a lengthy explanation that doesn't have the visuals, I would maybe Andy can add that link, or if you want, like, we can email it to you specifically if you don't quickly find it on the website. But it is something that is important to consider when planning a greenhouse, especially to go with a shape that is better at shedding the snow. But again, it comes down to being prepared. If you know how to deal with it, then when the situation arises, you're able to react much quicker.
I'm working on finding it.
Now, I was going to ask, in both of these cases, I hope that I've answered the question completely to your satisfaction. If I didn't, then certainly ask a follow-up question.
There we go. The link for the removing the snow video is in the chat.
One of the things that I didn't get into in my little brief presentation, well, mainly because I wanted to make sure there was time for the questions, but there are different plastics available that are considered more heat efficient and that also have an anti-drip additive to it. So if you are in a situation where you are going to be heating your structure in the winter time, this would be something to consider. It used to be that plastic was not as strong, so there was sort of limited range where we could use it. But with the upgrades that have been made, it's referred to as IR plastic, infrared, which has a different cell structure, and it adds another 10 or 12% to the heat efficiency of that plastic. Now, it has a little bit of a different look to it in how it diffuses light, so it's kind of an optical thing. So anyway, that is an option.
I posted the article from our website as well about the plastic that you were just talking about. And those links will also be in the comments from when I post the videos as well. So if you miss them, then they can be there as well. Did anyone have any other questions? We're going to be taking a short break in between the different presentations. You're welcome to stay and hang out during that time. Norm and I are going to be regrouping for the next presentation. And so sorry, trying to get everything organized here. The next one that we're going to be doing is about season extension and, oh no, sorry, is season extension using regular and modified Hanley tunnels properly, and why it works and why it cannot be changed, the lack of ends, how to get in, and what changes when going to the modified shape.
And since we have a few more minutes here, couple other things that I will just point out just for some added information on this concept about inflators and double plastic and that kind of stuff. On the bigger structures that we have, we automatically supply a double outlet inflator so that there is an attachment on either side of the ridge. So that means that whatever issues you could potentially have of getting the air to go from one side of the building to the other has been eliminated. Occasionally I get the question, and this typically happens if you know, the outside layer is a little bit looser than what it should be, then it really puffs up. And people are worried that that pocket of air can overinflate. Like they're worried that the greenhouse is going to explode. And it certainly looks like that sometime, where when you have that bigger air pocket and it really puffs up, it looks like it's ready to burst. And the reality is that with the power or the lack thereof of the inflator and the strength of the plastic, that simply is not possible. That fan simply does not have that strength. What is actually a bigger concern is that big airspace and the fact that once you get, you know, more than, you know, say 4 or 5 inches of space in between, you're starting to get, automatically you're getting air movement in between the layers of plastic. And when you have that movement, you're losing the benefit of dead air space. That if this is something that happens in the fall, it's not something that you should try to tackle unless you fully understand what it is that you could have done better. I'm saying could have done better rather than you did it wrong, like it just, you could have done it better. And you need to fully understand what happened before tackling the fix. Because the last thing, and you know, something that I've subscribed to many times is, you know, be satisfied with what you got, because in your attempt to fix it, you might make it worse. So it's important to really have a handle, and certainly we welcome an email with questions or a phone call so that you properly understand, that. The other thing that has come up sometime is people's interest in running that little fan off of solar because they don't have power available. We have done some experimenting and really found that with what we have access to right now, it is not feasible, because when you get 3 or 4 days of cloudy weather, if your solar collector isn't mounted perfectly, you know, you're going to run out of power. So yeah, that's just going to make it worse.
There is an alternative that we have posted on our website, though, of what people can do if they don't have power in that area. So I'm just posting a link to that article as well of what they can do instead of using solar power that doesn't always work. But if you don't have power to your structure, then you can use this other alternative that we've come up with.
And basically, you're using that liner, that extra plastic, as a liner on the inside, so the depth of the hoops that you have in the structure become your airspace, and so it works just as well. It's just a little bit more fiddling, and it doesn't require power. Any last minute questions?
We're going to reconvene at 11 o'clock to make sure that people who want to see the modified Hanley can join if they want. And so if they're planning on coming at 11 or whatever, so.
Thank you all for joining us, and